The smiley-faced killer eluded capture for years, his gruesome trail of victims stretching across the Midwest. The families left behind felt unbearable pain. Their sons and brothers lost their lives in the prime of life, and their bodies, pulled from rivers and lakes, bore the same mark. A crude smiley face painted next to the scene of each crime. The Johnsons knew this agony all too well. Their son Michael had been one of the killer's victims. He had been pulled dead from a murky pond near town. In the years since that fateful day, the family has been consumed by a relentless search for answers, driven by a desperate need to understand how this could have happened to their beloved boy. "There has to be a reason," Sarah Johnson told anyone who would listen, eyes reddened from endless tears. Michael didn't just disappear. Someone helped him. The detectives on the case had tried their best to solve the mystery, but the smiley-faced killer had carefully covered his tracks. No clues, no witnesses, just a series of drownings with the same disturbing calling card. It was as if the killer took pleasure in flaunting his crimes and preventing the authorities from catching him. The lack of progress was driving the Johnsons crazy. They knew that their son's killer was still at large and would probably take more than one more innocent life, and the thought of that kept them on edge. Sarah and her husband John spent countless hours studying news reports and police files, searching for the slightest clue that might lead them to the truth. One day, a break in the case came when an anonymous source tipped them off to a possible connection between the victims and a series of online chat rooms where members of a dark and disturbing subculture were communicating. The Johnsons seized on this lead and dove headfirst into the treacherous waters of the dark web, determined to uncover the identity of the smiley-faced killer. What they found there in the shadowy corners of the internet chased them to the bone. Posts and forums filled with disturbing references to the victims, even hints of a game in which participants placed bets on who the killer would choose next. The more the Johnsons dug, the more they realized that the true horror of the smiley-faced killer lay not only in the murders themselves, but in the web of depravity and perverse seduction that surrounded them. Piecing together the details, Sarah and John realized they had to act. They couldn't let their son's death be in vain, couldn't let the smiley-faced killer continue his terror. With renewed vigor, they turned to the authorities, determined to finally bring the elusive monster to justice. But the killer was cunning, and soon his trail was lost again. The Johnsons, who had failed to live up to their hopes, had to come to terms with the realization that they would never know the truth about Michael's fate and how many other families had suffered the same bereavement. The smiley face that had become a symbol of pure evil was forever imprinted on their minds, a grim smirk that mocked their search for answers and taunted them with the knowledge that the smiley-faced killer was still at large and his identity was kept top secret. Years later, as the Johnsons sat in their living room, where faded newspaper clippings and case files were constant reminders of their tragic loss, there was a knock at the door. A tired-looking detective stood on the threshold, his eyes full of sadness and determination. "We found him," the detective said, his voice barely above a whisper. "After all these years, we finally caught the smiley-faced killer." As the Johnsons listened to him with pounding hearts, the detective revealed the shocking truth. A former college student, a quiet loner with a disturbing fascination with the dark web, was responsible for the murder of their son and the deaths of countless others. The realization that the killer had been hiding in plain sight all along was almost unbearable. For the Johnsons, the news brought bittersweet relief. Justice had been served, but it could never undo the pain they had endured, the gaping hole in their lives that Michael's absence had left. The smiling face that was once a symbol of innocence and joy will forever be tainted by the darkness that consumed their family. As they watched the murder trial unfold, the Johnsons realized that the true outcome of the case might forever elude them. But in the end, they took comfort in the fact that their son's memory would not be forgotten, and that they had played a crucial role in bringing the twisted killer to justice, ensuring that no other family would suffer the same agonizing loss. Smiley's horror is over, but the scars he left behind remain.